All right, let's move on to our next guest, Jeff Bell of LegalShield. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Michael, thanks so much for having me.
All right, my pleasure. Last time you were on the show, you were telling us about the big crime wave we've all got to deal with in regards to cybercrime, and I wanted to dive into that and see what we would look to LegalShield for in regards to cybercrime that's been occurring. And then, please, I'm going to open it up for you to take it where you like.
Well, that's very kind of you. Yes. The fact of the matter is, we see the headlines. You know, it started quite some time ago. It seems like a distant memory when Target and then Sony both had breaches of customer information. Subsequently, we even heard that the federal government, whether it was with the IRS or with the Office of Management and Budget, that individual citizens' personal information was compromised by cyber criminals, people that literally are trying to hack into a database that has your name, potentially your Social Security number, your credit card, or other form of payment for a subscription. In the case of Yahoo recently, we heard about their hack. That means that your username and your password, potentially other personally identifiable information, what's known as PII, was stolen. And then, of course, perhaps most infamous of all, the Equifax breach affecting between 145 and 165 million people. These were all perpetrated by criminals. And as we started to discuss, that data is now residing off-world, if you will, in a dark web, it's called, or the deep web. And people are literally placing Social Security numbers, credit card numbers, people's names, addresses, their emails, their passwords for sale. And these are like a virtual bazaar. The data comes up, and there are transactions, and then it's closed down, and then it disappears. It moves to another location. So it's very difficult to catch the criminals in the act, or if someone does see what's going on, again, they move very quickly on to someplace else, and so you can't necessarily apprehend the suspects. Well, where does that leave us? And the fact of the matter is, there are three things that every one of your listeners should be doing to protect themselves. Number one, they need to have some type of monitoring service. That monitoring service needs to be looking out for your personally identifiable information, your name, your address, your emails. It should also include your Social Security, driver's license, passport. Should have your credit cards, your bank accounts, loan numbers, mortgage loan numbers, things that you don't necessarily use very often. But if that information has been compromised in any of these breaches, what they do when someone buys that information from the criminals is they begin to create what's known as a synthetic identity. So suddenly a new Michael has been created. And what do they do with that identity? They get identification, they establish new credit, they take out loans, and in each of these instances, it comes back to haunt you and the innocent victim, where suddenly you're notified of either crime or a civil request, you stop paying your loan, you're past due, some other type of criminal activity, and that's known as an identity theft. And that's then why you need to be monitoring to make sure that you're alerted that you're at risk, and you need to change passwords or you need to be vigilant. And then number two, you need to have someone in your corner. You need to have someone that will be there to do all of the work to A, keep you out of jail, B, keep you from having a lien imposed on your life for a loan that you never took out, and then C, to expunge your record as an innocent citizen of this egregious crime. That's known as restoration. That type of work, you don't want to do it on your own. FTC says it's 200 hours, 6 months to do. You need a professional. I believe you need people with certifications, including being a licensed private investigator who can take a durable power of attorney for you and then do all that work. That's what we do at LegalShield. We obviously have lawyers that do that work, but we also have those private investigators that do that type of monitoring and that restoration in a product that we call ID Shield. The last thing that I would say for everybody that's listening is just make sure that you're taking advantage of a wonderful piece of law here in the United States, and that is you can get a free credit report from each of the bureaus, the most recently hacked Equifax, as well as TransUnion and Experian. They must issue your credit report on an annual basis. My recommendation is put it in your calendar right now. Get one done in January. Make the request for the free report in 2018, and then put a note in your calendar, a reminder, if you will, and get another one done in May, towards that middle of the year, and have it from the second one. Perhaps it's the first one's from Equifax, the second one from TransUnion, and then put a reminder again in that October-November timeframe before the holidays, and pull your credit report again from the third, Experian. You get one from each for free. Why not pace them so that you're getting reports about every 4 to 5 months through the calendar year, and you're able to see if there are any mistakes on that report. And if there are, again, that's why you need something like LegalShield or another monitoring and restoration service that can help you address any errors that are on the reports and get them corrected.
All right, Jeff, let's take a break here and talk more about this topic on the other side, all right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll be right back with Jeff Bell of LegalShield on the other side of this break. This segment has been brought to you by Tycon Partners. You've been listening to CEO Money with Michael Yorba, your host. Welcome back to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba. Thanks for joining with us. All right, my guest is Jeff Bell, CEO of LegalShield. Jeff, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, sir.
All right, you're welcome. What other trends are you seeing that is driving customers to use your services? I mean, you cover a myriad of different topics, but where are you seeing the hot spots now of why people are seeking your company out?
I think that there's a general fear, because of all these breaches, people just feel like there's a cloud hanging over them that bad things can happen to good people. And I think that they're confused. What's a fair and square deal? When they find out that LifeLock, who advertises endlessly on television, is powered by Equifax, the people that actually had the breach, that seems like you can't trust anybody. Even the U.S. government recently dropped a contract with Equifax, et cetera. I guess I would turn our attention for the rest of our time to the question of cyberbullying. And, it's not just for kids. Anyone who's out on social media, whether it's Twitter or Instagram, Pinterest, if they're on Facebook, and so many millions and millions of people are, it's that mean-spirited comment. And sometimes it moves from just a snarky comment to actually, an attack. And we've seen that, of course, the tragedy of some young people even being bullied to the point of taking their own lives. And we get a lot of questions around this and what can be done. And it actually led to our use of a now social monitoring feature within the LegalShield product. People are able to authorize the monitoring of their most popular accounts, as I mentioned, the Facebook and the Twitter. And in addition to watching out for this kind of hostile, aggressive language, there's also the need to educate all people that we share too much. There's too much oversharing. And I know we all can laugh about, you don't want your boss to see you, at a keg party, or a tailgating keg party, doing something silly. But it's not about those fringe cases. It's that you really don't want your profile to include your email, your cell phone number. And when you are using social media, remember, if you're telling people you're not at home, then you're telling people that might want to break into your home that you're not at home. And so some of this seems so commonsensical, but let's be fair and give ourselves a break. When we all rushed into social media, we did so wanting to be in the cool kids class like everybody else, and we never really were told or thought about how much we were oversharing. Well, it's been a decade for Facebook, and I think now is the time for us to take a deep breath and say there's clearly no reason for Facebook to have all this information about any of us, and it's a danger because if it's out there, it can be stolen and it can be used against us.
But what is the recourse for cyberbullying? I mean, let's just take it to the business level, aside from the personal stuff. when you have businesses promoting themselves using social media, and then you get a cyberbully, what can you do with that? I mean, what's your recourse there?
Well, in our particular instance, we use our private investigator to begin to actually make inquiries with law enforcement and alert them about anything that we consider to be hostile, beyond just derogatory, but hostile and threatening. And so that tends to then lead to some type of contact with, whether it is a minor or with an adult, and that usually puts the end to it. That's the good news story, is that it's kind of like light disinfects. Being able to raise, an alert and say that there is harassment is a problem. Second, most people don't know that they should and are encouraged to report hostile language, inappropriate language, threatening language, whether it is of a sexual or a physical violence nature. They can report that to Facebook, to Twitter, etc. And in light of the greater sensitivity around the Russian advertising that took place, or some of the hate language that has unfortunately permeated some of these platforms, I will say that Facebook and Twitter are much better at censoring hostile parties in social media. But when it gets to that point that if anyone, whether it's a minor or it's an adult, feels threatened by someone else, that's the time to call the service that you're relying on. That's the time to call LegalShield, to call ID Shield, in our humble opinion.
Let's say somebody affects your business. They're driving business away from your business with this, not necessarily just cyberbullying, but stalking processes. Is there any financial recourse?
There is, actually, and again, that's one of those things where you can, there are several. One, you can alert a website that there is, I'll call it even extortionist practices. I thought you were going to go to, purposefully putting bad reviews for a restaurant into a platform. That's not acceptable, because the platform is responsible for ensuring that the reviews are bona fide and legitimate, as opposed to fabricated and being used in a hostile way. If there are other specific activities that are occurred, that's why you need small business legal plans, which we do provide at LegalShield. So that is a cease and desist order, either against a party or another business, and or it is a cease and desist letter written on your behalf to a platform that may be a faux review site, or it might actually be a bona fide review site that's not doing a good job of policing the accuracy and the validity of a review or other comment that's being placed online.
When does it move from civil to criminal on these processes?
For the most part, you're looking at some type of criminal activity when the state sees that there's something going on between two parties that involves violence and or theft, and principally where you pass from misdemeanor to felony. You almost always are going to carry some type of civil activity along with a criminal activity. And so, again, one of the first things you want to do when you talk to your lawyer, at LegalShield, you pay a monthly fee, you get to speak to a lawyer on an unlimited basis as opposed to paying by the hour. You always want to talk to a lawyer if you have a question. They're going to be the best person to advise whether the next call should be to law enforcement to get a prosecuting attorney and or just the police involved in something that seems to be a threat, an embezzlement, a theft, or some other tort that is being caused against your company.
Got it. All right, Jeff, thanks for being a guest on the show. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Michael.
Thank you. Jeff Bell, CEO, LegalShield.com. All right.